From historically gorgeous and infamously dark cathedrals rumored to be the staging grounds for some unimaginably evil rituals, to simply classic and chillingly creepy cemeteries where the souls of those who were musically inclined through life are said to congregate after death. For a city known as La Ville Lumière, or the City of Lights, Panama certainly harbors its fair share of frightening hauntings, which is why the Speakeasy is absolutely thrilled to bring you our list of picks for the most haunted places in the one and only Paris, France. Here we go. Number 5. The Louvre. The Louvre, or officially the Louvre Museum, is a museum and historical monument located right off the northeastern bank of the River Seine that boasts the absolutely astounding reputation of being the world's largest art museum. This simply famous structure was originally built from 1190 to 1202 under the rule of King Philip II in an effort to better protect Paris. He had the castle constructed with walls embracing a good bulk of the city. Ironically, all of his valuable transcripts and many paintings as well as works of art were housed within the castle. As the city grew, the castle's stone reach was expanded to safely accommodate new additions. Through the 16th century, sadly, the medieval fortress was slowly brought to rubble. The Louvre Palace constructed in its stead. In 1572, the palace became the central point and scene of the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, where Catholic radicals ruthlessly slaughtered Protestants. This massacre continued for weeks, resulting in tens of thousands of casualties across France, at least 2,000 of which occurred in the proximity of the Louvre. Through the 18th century, compiling a royal museum began, but was never completed due to disagreements on a suitable plan regarding layout. In 1791, the Assembly declared the Louvre a place that would be used for bringing together monuments of all the sciences and arts. It was officially opened for this purpose in 1793. Several periods of renovation were held throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, and while the collection began as relatively small, it grew steadily over time, expanding to cover nearly all of the former palace. Today, the Louvre remains open to the public and is currently the most visited art museum on the face of the planet. The Louvre's rich history, coupled with the location's impressive death toll, makes it the perfect place to kick off this countdown, as, over the years, a number of local legends suggest more than just art is hidden within the old palace's walls. Some claim the hauntings of the Louvre can be attributed to the many deaths across the property, while others claim the artwork and artifacts themselves are acting as a sort of conduit. Whatever the case, a number of encounters detail full-bodied apparitions donning clothing and hairstyles from Paris's long and colorful history. Many visitors report catching orbs in the backgrounds of photographs, sighting shadows darting around displays, and even having electronics die upon entering the building. Rather disruptively, the Louvre's many spirits have been held to blame for uncomfortable cold spots, sealed objects moving within their cases, and even alarms being set off in the middle of the night from empty and locked areas. Also reported across the premises are disembodied footsteps from empty rooms, locked doors opening on their own, and a perturbing scream always heard from just out of sight with no known cause. Number 4. Père Lachaise Cemetery. Père Lachaise Cemetery is a massive, picturesque boneyard sprawling an impressive 110 acres, located just east off Boulevard des Ménilmontant, and boasts the impressive reputation as the largest cemetery in Paris, and also the infamy of holding somewhere between 2 and 3 million bodies, all in varying states of decay. This cemetery was first established under the rule of none other than Napoleon in the year of 1804 after he dictated that all should have a right to burial, regardless of religious or cultural background. Père Lachaise endured a slow start, however. Its location fell just outside the city limits at the time, and many held reservations concerning grave robbers, religious condemnation, or worse. In response, the city reburied several notable names and families into the new grounds, drawing attention to the area as well as quickly changing popular opinions. Plots were quickly purchased up. In 1823, a funerary chapel was constructed. In 1871, 147 communards were shot down, their bodies dumped near what is now referred to as the Communards Wall. In the 1880s, a crematorium was added, the first crematorium, in fact, in all of France, with the country's first cremation occurring in 1889. Père Lachaise acts as a burial home to a number of notable names, including Edith Piaf, Oscar Wilde, Jim Morrison, Molière, Marcel Proust, Balzac, Camille Pissarro, and more. The grounds are open to the public to this very day, and, holding a trend with our previous museum location, stands as the most visited necropolis in the world. Taking its origins and history into account, it should surprise no one that a slew of stories detailing the yard's many hauntings have arisen over the years, some claiming it all began when the original bodies were displaced. Many report extreme cold spots on hot days, strange lights sighted floating through the skies, and translucent entities gliding silently about. A number of reports detail those walking the old boneyard experiencing a host of strange psychological symptoms: vertigo, strong shivers down the spine, even an eerie calmness that some describe as close to death. The most famous spirit seen here, and the one most frequently manifested, is said to be that of composer and pianist Frédéric Francois Chopin, who has been sighted near his grave muttering to himself while making gestures with his hands. Seemingly deep in thought, he's been known to vanish promptly upon discovery. The spirit of Jim Morrison of The Doors is often seen and has even been photographed on several occasions, also wandering near his grave. This ghost doesn't seem to share Chopin's shyness, however, as several have claimed he's hung around to chat for a while before seemingly being pulled away by an unknown force. The ghost of Adolphe Thiers, who acted as prime minister through the 19th century, has been known to tug on the clothing of visitors who walk too near his grave. And author Marcel Proust's spirit has been sighted on a number of occasions, purportedly searching for his love, who was buried elsewhere. Number 3. The Eiffel Tower. The wrought iron lattices of the one and only Eiffel Tower reach up to the sky at the Champ de Mars, west of central Paris on the eastern bank of the Seine, the tower boasting the impressive reputation of the 6th tallest man-made structure in the entirety of the world. The Eiffel Tower was originally constructed from 1887 to 1889 as the entrance to the 1889 World's Fair. It stands 1,063 feet in height, and as such was labeled as the world's tallest building upon its initial completion. Its name was selected in honor of Gustave Eiffel, whose company designed and built the tower, pushing through labor considered by many to be out of line or a dangerous project. Tragically, but also somewhat fortunately for this day and age, only one person died during construction. Incredibly, the tower was designed to stand for just 2 decades, a meager 20 years. But after seeing how popular and, incidentally, how profitable it was, the city decided to keep it. The Eiffel Tower was decided upon as a test site for some of the world's earliest radio broadcasts, and, later, a staging grounds for cutting-edge experimentation in the fields of meteorology, astronomy, and even the monitoring of physical and air resistance phenomena. On 2 separate occasions, beginning in 1925, con artist Victor Lustig sold the tower as scrap metal, claiming to American businessmen that it was becoming unsafe, a burden to the city, and that Paris wanted rid of it for the right price. His escapades resulted in 100,000 franc sales, while leaving business owners high and dry, arriving to the tower only to discover they owned nothing in France aside from the clothing on their backs. Okay, we don't usually support crime, but this one is pretty cool. When Lustig passed away, his official death record actually sets him as salesperson, a title given in honor of one of the world's greatest scams. During the German occupation of Paris in 1940, lift cables to the tower were cut by the French. In 1944, Adolf Hitler ordered that the tower be destroyed, orders that, incidentally, were never followed through. The tower's cables were not repaired until after the war in 1946. In 1982, the original 2 lifts were replaced after an astounding 97 years of use. Today, the Eiffel Tower remains open to the public and houses several historic displays, food services, and a champagne bar, perfectly implemented to celebrate the breathtaking view in style. though officials are unwilling to comment, and while it's still technically unknown, it's said that upwards of 400 suicides have occurred here, as well as a number of accidental deaths, and many local legends nudge at the theory that the tower may be holding its fair share of restless spirits. In a number of these suicides, disturbingly, witnesses claim that jumpers look possessed, in some cases laughing maniacally, even happy seconds before they topple to their fates. One of the most commonly encountered apparitions here is that of a woman in 1920s clothing, often sighted walking the observation deck, fading in and out of existence, sometimes replaying her own death, first laughing, then screaming as she either tips or is pushed from the edge. Several local legends tell that she's either the ghost of a woman pushed from the tower after a marriage proposal ending in rejection, while others claim she wasn't going to reject the proposal at all, but was in fact so shocked she backed up and accidentally toppled over. It's said she's not alone, however, and many report different full-bodied apparitions in clothing from various eras, shadowy forms slinking about, and extreme cold spots even on warm days. Lastly, a number of employee reports from work areas or from after the tower is closed for the night have detailed disembodied footsteps, voices heard from locked and empty shops, strange electrical malfunctions, and mysterious entities seen on the visitors platform, thought at first to be living stragglers, until staff approached to confront them only to watch them fade away. Number 2. Cathédrale Notre-Dame du Paris. Cathédrale Notre-Dame du Paris, or simply the Notre-Dame Cathedral, is a ridiculously famous medieval Catholic cathedral located off the Isle de la Cité in the 4th arrondissement that is considered to be one of the finest standing examples of the French Gothic architecture, as well as the most visited monument in all of Paris. Construction of the cathedral began in 1160 and was not completed until 1260. It was modified and remodeled extensively throughout the following years. In the 1790s, during the French Revolution, much of the original imagery and artwork was destroyed. International attention was drawn to the cathedral largely after the release of Victor Hugo's 1831 novel Notre-Dame du Paris, or now, and in English, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Surprisingly, this popularity led to a major restoration project between the years of 1844 and 1864. The liberation of Paris was celebrated within the cathedral in 1944. Another large-scale restoration and cleanup project was launched between 1991 and the year 2000. During a renovation project in April of 2019, sadly, the roof of the cathedral caught fire. Portions of the building were completely destroyed, leading many to suggest a more modernistic design. But just 4 months later, in July of 2019, French Parliament ruled it a legal requirement the cathedral be reconstructed to its exact original likeness. You're probably already aware of this little fact, but this upload is mid-November of 2019, meaning Notre Dame is still in pretty rough shape. Currently, it's estimated that the restructure, restorations, and work could take anywhere from 5 to 20 years to complete, during which time all Hugo fans and lovers of a certain related childhood cartoon can sit outside quietly and weep. Not surprisingly, this downright creepy-looking monument has instilled stories of the supernatural, the unknown, and the unseen from its earliest days, even from its very construction. As local legend has it, during said construction, a locksmith was hired to make locks for every door and safe in the cathedral, a task he knew was far too daunting for him to do alone. Pressures mounting, it's said he summoned the devil and made a deal to get the job done, promising his soul upon the task's completion. The devil agreed, and by magic, every lock was completed. However, with no certain terms set, it's said the devil then quickly killed the locksmith, reaping his soul but leaving a piece of his spirit behind, to roam the cathedral for all eternity. The phantom locksmith has been seen rushing quickly around the premises, and has also been heard tinkering with various locks, always just out of sight. Another story tells that in the 13th century, a blacksmith was hired to decorate the extravagant side doors. He too called on Lucifer for help. When the doors were unveiled, strangely, they would not open. The blacksmith was surely headed for the same untimely end, but as a priest in the crowd witnessed this dark magic take hold, he rushed to the blacksmith's side, dousing him in holy water and quickly spewing a series of prayers. He then followed suit with the door, breaking the devil's power. These side entries earned a new name in history, dubbed simply the Cursed Doors. In 1882, a woman climbed to the top of the tower before throwing herself to her death. Her spirit is often sighted wandering the tower, a sorrowful look on her pale face, a chill in her wake. During a number of startling instances, staff and visitors have reported hearing a gunshot from somewhere within the cathedral, even prompting authorities to be called, who always arrive to find the area empty. This phantom bang is said to be from the spirit of one Antoinetta Rivas Mercado, who's been sighted reenacting her death by suicide via gunshot since the year it happened in 1931. It's said Maria was rejected by a lover, and tragically couldn't continue on bearing her heartbreak. Also reported throughout the cathedral are translucent priests, monks, bishops, popes, and other religious figures, donning outfits from various eras, seemingly tending small tasks from life before fading away. Lastly, and on a more positive paranormal note, many report hearing extravagant organ music when the cathedral is closed down, or even watching in shock as the organ begins playing itself immaculately. This is believed to be the spirit of one Louis Vierne, a famous organist in his time who passed at the cathedral in 1937, while playing his 1750th concert on this very organ. Number 1. The Catacombs of Paris. The Catacombs of Paris, simply the Catacombs, or sometimes the Empire of Death, are all names used to describe the 150 miles of underground tunnels at least 100 feet below the city's surface, which contain the remains of no less than 6 million people. If we're being totally honest here, the catacombs probably don't need a lot of introduction, but as always, we're going to give you one anywho. Pre-catacombs, cemeteries were held within the city. Unfortunately, due to inefficient internment techniques, this led to eventual overcrowding and the spread of serious disease. In 1780, burials within the city were outlawed entirely. City officials scrambled to find a suitable place for future burials, and then they remembered the ancient city mines, a network of tunnels below Paris itself that dated back to the 10th century, which were used by bandits, thieves, and murderers to escape the law, or even by those who simply wanted to avoid toll roads. In 1786, the city began transferring the skeletal remains of all city cemeteries into the underground tunnels. The entire process took 2 years of continuous work. Originally, and kind of sadly, the bones were scattered haphazardly, but in 1810, the Paris Mine Inspection Service began restoring the tunnels, stacking the bones in the neat fashion they are seen in today. From 1815 to 1833, the catacombs were open to the public for tours, but were closed when their state began to degrade. They were later reopened in 1850 for only 4 tours a year. However, due to their popularity, by 1867 monthly tours were available. As the crowds kept coming, by the early 1900s, daily tours were the only way to accommodate the numbers and keep up with the rush. Interestingly enough, the catacombs were actually utilized during World War II by both French and German armies, with the Nazi Party going so far as building bunkers within the tunnel system. In 1955, it was declared illegal to enter the catacombs outside of designated and intended public areas. In 2009, the catacombs closed for a short time due to an incident concerning extensive vandalism, which eventually compromised the state of several displays. Portions of the catacombs are still open to the public to this day, with many hidden entrances sealed across the city. And though a large portion of the tunnels are closed, this hasn't stopped daredevils and local youths from sneaking in regularly. Over its approximate 150 miles of twisting and turning cave-like corridors, much of which lies uncharted, more than a few local legends tell of adventurers entering and either getting lost for days in the pitch black or never being seen again. Several famous writings as well as movie portrayals follow this disturbing premise. Do we even need to say it? This place is our number 1 for good reason, and over its impressive existence, many, surrounded by millions of dead and not semi-impermeable darkness have reported a wide range of inexplicable activity that ranges from strange to downright horrifying in nature. Several legends surrounding the origins of this activity include the disrespecting of the initial bodies undergoing reinternment, hidden Nazi experiments, and even occult practices through the Plague of 1348, during which it's rumored sorcerers used the tunnels for horrible acts. Many detail encounters such as being touched by unseen hands, the sounds of disembodied footsteps following closely through the dark, the unshakable feeling of being watched, and, alarmingly, several instances in which visitors to the catacombs were literally tackled to the ground and strangled for a period of time by an invisible force. In 1793, a man by the name of Philibert Asper is said to have become lost in the catacombs, possibly while intoxicated. Disturbingly, his body wasn't discovered for 11 years, and is now entombed near the same location at which it was discovered. It's said his spirit is often heard in the deepest parts of the tunnels, crying for help, sobbing through the pitch black. Philibert's full-bodied apparition has also been sighted roaming about, looking lost, confused. If you see him, be careful, as he's been known to lead the unsuspecting into getting lost themselves. One more classic legend tells that if you're in the catacombs after midnight, the walls will begin to speak to you. The darkness will come to life, and slowly you'll be led as if by spell deeper and deeper until you can't get back out. In the early 1990s, a group of cataphiles, or people who study and explore catacombs regularly, were in a deeper tunnel when they discovered a dusty camera lying on the ground. When they watched the footage, a man appeared to be lost in the catacombs. Disturbing noises are heard as he hurriedly runs around the maze, becoming more and more lost before dropping the camera and disappearing into the darkness. No one has ever been able to verify if the footage is real or if it's a complete hoax, and the man featured in the short video has never been identified. Many speculate this clip is what inspired the movie As Above, So Below, which was actually filmed in the catacombs. Also reported throughout this massive network are multiple full-bodied apparitions from many different eras, shadowy beings, demonic entities, orbs and inexplicable lights, strange chanting from just out of sight, and much, much more. With its overpowering history and horrific hauntings, coupled with the fact that this location literally claims lives to this very day, it shouldn't be hard to see why we chose the Catacombs du Paris as our pick for the most haunted place in Paris. As always, thank you everyone for tuning in to our list of picks for the most haunted places in Paris. If you enjoyed listening to our terrifying tales as much as we enjoyed telling them to you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on so you know when fresh content is coming out. Click the like button down below, and most importantly, share this dark documentary and our chilling channel with anyone you think could use a good fright. We'll see you soon.